Okay, we're going to open up this for questions. We've been on the call for an hour today, and I would like to make sure that there are no further questions on this particular topic. And your homework assignment, since over half of the room is still catching up, your homework assignment is to get caught up. Okay. If you're working with clients, I know that you've got different stuff going on. Start implementing some of these techniques. Some of you don't follow the homework assignments and you just start implementing right away. Okay. That's okay. We'll start implementing it right away. But get caught up if you're actually building something in this course. It's very interesting to hear that most of you in this room are actually full-on independent consultants and do not have a day job. That was a real eye-opener for me. I've never asked that question before, and I'm going to start asking for that. That gives me a little bit of an idea of how busy you are, and therefore a little bit more compassion. And I try not to beat you up so bad for not finishing your homework. So yeah, and you guys are really all extremely well, very clear thinkers, and you give us a run for our money, so that's really, really good. Any further questions about any of the things that Matt has shown you today? And in fact, any questions about anything? You guys have anything? What's anything on your mind, even if it's not in this course? Neil is saying, when creating your magnetic content, how much effort do you put into including synonyms, variations from Kraken or TLKT? Again, it depends. If you're talking about WR1, a lot of that is done for me now, Neil, at the level of framework, meaning with some of the changes coming up in Google Skyfall and a variety of other mechanisms as things shift, everything that we're talking about with LSI is useful. However, one of the things that I have to be honest about is that the days, I don't know if you guys know that I was one of the co-creators of an early software called Content Composer. Do you guys remember that, where the LSI keywords, you could actually toggle and tweak the percentage of LSI keywords that we imported and so on and so forth? When you have writers that can effectively provide excellent information and content, it's great for you to give them an awareness of what terms that Kraken uses in there. Like those LSI terms actually do help, especially pure diverse and partial diverse. However, if you are on a budget and you're not rolling in the cash, if you have a choice between content that's useful, magnetic, and has engagement rank, does everybody know what engagement rank is? It's like a huge topic. Always choose engagement rank over the writer's debt that you're going to accrue. If a writer is going to slow down and take 5 hours to incorporate LSI keywords, and it's going to cost you an extra $1, so that when you go to DWS Any Silo Builder, the cost of your article is going to go significantly up. When I'm on a budget, I will tweak that down. I will worry less about whether or not all the LSI keywords get implemented, and more is whether the content is interesting. Because a lot of the times what happens is a really good writer will start to incorporate a lot of good terms that are meaningful anyway by default, even though they're not mechanically incorporated from Kraken. Now, one thing you can do is just provide the author. We have some excellent authors. You provide them those LSI keywords, and they just kind of have on one of their monitors. They have those screens open. And what you do is you tell them they may or may not use every single word. The whole keyword stuffing concept for LSI. It almost never leads to things that are really, really good. Okay, it creates a creative block where experts and subject matter experts tend to be when they're more interested about stuffing the proper keywords from Kraken into the article than providing really interesting engagement, magnetic content with engagement rank. There's a real problem with that. Now, where it is going to get interesting, where it is going to get interesting, Neil, is Video Kraken Dominator 2.0. the evil plan for all of this is we'll be pulling, for those of you who decided to move on to the higher echelons of craziness, Video Kraken Dominator Pro is by far the most dangerous thing that we've ever built, and it's in the process of being built. We just had a spec meeting 2 nights ago as to whether or not we would incorporate the article keywords in the content that comes back, and we found some ways to use the general framework. So in that case, when you can really bring up interesting things and the content is relevant, and you're able, the real power is being able to combine engagement rank with LSI and content leverage at a low cost. That's the holy grail, okay? Because where you have engagement rank and industry-related LSI and co-occurrent terms, you have literally intelligence. I mean, that's what most filters and sensors are trying to do right now. With the PhDs, the hundreds of PhDs lined up and being paid $200,000 a year salaries over at Google, what they're trying to do is create a filter that is intelligent, like literally able to pick up regret algorithms, literally able to pick up what is being said. I'm going to give you guys a really interesting analogy. While Matt was talking, I was dealing with probably one of the smartest people in our organization. Everybody's so incredibly smart. You guys know Kraken and TOKT was created by Kelly Reynolds. You guys give me a 1 if you know, if I've ever introduced you to Kelly Reynolds. Give me a 1 if I've introduced you to him. I can't remember 2. I have not. Okay. This is really, really interesting. I said he brags a lot. Brian. Oh man, Brian's like the little devil on my shoulder telling me what Brian's like my...
I remember that trip.
Oh man. I really have to watch what I
Nemesis.
say. You know, I can't be like, I can't really be a jerk anymore. There's too many people taking our courses now. I can't even joke really. Yes, Kevin, you guys got to understand that Kelly is, I know I say this a lot about my team, but he is a prodigy. He was headhunted by Google, and like, you know, for the first couple of years we were working with him, it really was like, you know, we're not worthy. I mean, he really was above our pay grade in the first year or two. But he liked us, and we hung out. And so he would come to Madison, where our company started, and we would work on stuff. But anyway, he was saying some stuff this morning about, you know, we were talking about Google Skyfall, and we were talking about TOR, you know, the browser, the anonymous browser. And because he's a genius like that, builds the infrastructures that track IPs and MAC address. I mean, he knows how all that stuff works, and he runs all the network empire servers and is responsible for security. He basically, I asked him whether he thought things like TOR as a security measure was really useful. And it's related actually to Google algorithms and filters. The point is that he said you don't have to know what somebody's doing to know what they're doing. In other words, you don't have to know the specifics. So when you're using a browser like Tor that's supposed to be like a security thing, it's what they're not doing that helps you track what they're doing. In other words, there's a lot of things that are implied that can still get through with TOR. And so they gave this example. Whenever somebody makes a distinction between data and metadata, they should be immediately shot. This is a quote from him. I know he was not expecting me to say this publicly, but you guys are certified advisors. You can handle that. In other words, it's okay to violate your privacy. It's just metadata. Okay, now what he's really saying is that, for example, about his point on metadata, you can have a completely encrypted VoIP conversation with somebody such that they never crack it, specifically, ever, right? You guys know what VoIP, voice over IP? But by running a machine learning algorithm on a large number of phone calls from another source, doesn't matter what they are, you can use the timing and sizes of the VoIP packets to predict what is being said with sufficient accuracy to get the gist of the conversation. Did you guys just hear that? This is a perfect case of not needing to know what you are saying to know what you are saying. Did you guys hear that? I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it again because we're going to jump to search engine algorithms on this. I want you to know what Google is actually trying to do. I want you to read between the lines about what I'm saying, because I'm not going to get totally paranoid with you guys today. Maybe next time. We're just going to stay moderately paranoid. By running a machine learning algorithm on a large number of phone calls, even though you can't crack and listen to the voices, right? It's talking back and forth on VoIP. You can use timing and sizes of VoIP packets to predict what is being said with sufficient accuracy to get the gist of the conversation. It's a perfect case of not needing to know what you are saying in order to know what you are saying. So what this means, let's zoom out a little bit. If you can even encrypt and crack and predict VOR, for example, time of day, certain accents, certain peaks and pitches, what happens immediately after the VoIP call ends. All of these things can be put together to determine behaviors. For instance, if a VoIP packet, when it ended, the person immediately moved over to a sales button and pressed a sales call or called the help desk or whatever. All these things could be used to predict what the conversation was and rendering the specifics of that conversation irrelevant, but the result of that conversation could imply the content. Do you guys understand what I said? Give me one if you understood what I said there. That would be one of many types of algorithms. And two, if it does not quite make sense. Now, what I'm saying there, you guys, is that when it comes to the search engines, the PhDs, they're really looking, in order to create artificial intelligence that filters out and spam, they're really looking for what is implied by the behaviors. Okay, they're looking for, you don't have to know how somebody is spamming in order to understand how they're spamming. If you can actually encrypt with an algorithm, if you can actually understand the layering, if you can understand the results of the actions, if you can understand the implication. This is why you'll see them start incorporating a lot of traffic metrics, because the traffic metrics off the search engines they really have. This is why the privacy issue is such a big deal. And the reason that this is interesting is because I want you guys to start thinking in terms of engagement rank. The reason that I launched in this whole space age kind of artificial intelligence algorithm is because it's here. Okay, it's here. And I want to give you guys the skeleton key to unlock all the crap around Skyfall. All right, are you ready? Engagement rank. I've been saying it since 2011. I predicted this 4 years ago. All right, engagement rank. Let's
before that, Russ.
Let's review engagement rank. Okay, Matt, just share the screen with me so we can view that.
Sure.
I want you guys to. I know we've left things with Skyfall a little bit fuzzy, and for you guys on this call for the first time, I want to de-fuzzy-ize it for you. Okay, I want to make sure that you know, even though there's not an official release, am I on the right screen? Which screen do you guys see?
What is engagement rank?
Okay, good. So you guys can look at all this in engagement rank. This is an early predictor, okay? Engagement, right, obviously. Okay, but I want to focus in on what we're actually looking at here. I know it seems easy, but I don't want you guys to misconstrue what I'm saying. Okay, and since you guys are certified advisors, I want to make myself more clear. I am not saying that automatic content is impossible. Guys, quite the opposite. I'm saying that the future of automated content is context jacking. Context jacking is when you remove a concept, meme, statement, or sentence from one context, digital or otherwise, and splice it into another possibly unrelated context, digital or otherwise. Yeah, I make a new word up every day, Tim. Okay, so what am I really saying? If you can rearrange content in a way that is remarkable, insightful, first, wow, was I first with that, Tim? Yeah, I checked. Context jacking does not exist. I was first. Big deal. Creative, useful, unique, agile, or preparing you to adapt, right? Kevin Gibbon, who is brilliant, created some of these ideas. This is not my idea. I don't know if I ever told you the story about engagement rank, but when I went to buy engagement rank, because I thought it was my new idea, I thought it was the original meme, okay? I was shocked. Think about okay, so I was like, wow, who bought that? I was all mad. I went to the domain handler, right, for engagement rank. And so I went over there. You guys got to imagine how it feels, right? I was like, you bastard, who bought that? So I took off the dash. And where did it take me? This is a true story. This is 100% independent. It took me to my original SEO mentor, who I hung out with and drank beer with and got drunk with in 2006. Like, he came up with the idea independently of me, right? So, of course, you could argue that there was inception, then I heard it. No, it's a forward. It's not even indexed. All right, so Why am I telling you guys this? I'm trying to plant a seed of a new idea for you guys. I want you to get an inside scoop of where I am really at. Now, there's going to be some refinement at this point. There's still things that you have to watch. There's still where we're heading with Skyfall and everything else. I don't want you to think that you have to run around spending hundreds of hours a day trying to block your MAC address. Okay? I don't want you to, like, the last thing that I want you to do, and I know that that seems like it's implied by some of the interesting but incomplete content that we have, but what you would be better off, rather than, turning on hide my MAC address and dealing with the issue of, or hide my IP and dealing with the issue of failed IPs and all these things. You can do that. There's ways to do that, or Tor, or these other things. But you have less to worry about that type of thing when you focus on what? Engagement rank. I don't care if Google is hanging out with the head vice director of the CIA and Larry Page and him are like golfing. I don't care. Think about what they care about. What does Google care about? They care about time on site. They care about engagement. They care if the user is being sucked into a vortex of time wasting and or useful activities. You guys understand what I'm saying here? Yep. It's called, I'm going to give you guys a huge, like, where I'm going before my book is released on this topic, okay? It's called attentionalism. Okay? It's called attentionalism. Let's get into it a little bit. This is a bonus. You guys want a bonus today, or should I hang up?
I definitely want a bonus.
Attentionalism was created by quickly becoming a good friend of mine, Alexander Bard. I think he might be the most intelligent person ever lived, but I'm not sure. Probably not. He seems like it to me because I'm not that bright. But he wrote a book called The Futureka Trilogy. Okay? Futureka Trilogy is pretty important. Now, he can be a little bit pompous, and we've had a couple arguments, and he gets really pissed off when I start talking neuroscience, because philosophers, I don't really think they are on board with neurotechnologies yet, to his detriment, which is also why he does not like Raymond Kurzweil. But you got to understand that Alexander Bard is probably one of the most brilliant philosophers and technologists that I've ever met. He talks about attentionalism, you guys. Attentionalism, where we are moving now, if you guys are the first batch to really get this, I've talked to you about, money will follow attention. And really quickly, and he argues, which I'm reading right now, in chapter 15, network dynamics, sex, power, network dynamics, and the necessary metamorphosis of attention. What I'm trying to get you guys to understand is that you don't have to care that much what Google is jacking or stealing or tracking. I mean, it's good to know. But in terms of your profitability margin, as long as you're creating things that are drawing attention. And memetics is what creates attention, you guys. Memetics is what creates attention. Okay, and it's a huge thing to understand this. Okay, my friend Dan Zarella is a really big, he's on this right now very well. Introduction to memes and marketers. Memes are not stupid little gimmicks and ads. Okay, they are, but those are the result of memetics. Those are a type of meme, a context that you can jack. But memes are actually deep within the structure of our culture. And, an image is just one type of meme. Okay, so really what I'm trying to get you guys to understand is that, and I think you do, is that the future of connected society is attentionalism. And it's really weird to be thinking about this, but there's a new hard currency starting to be born now, where it does get concerning when Google jacks, when your information is being collected. What's ironic is that what I care about in terms of Google Skyfall is not what most people care about. I don't care if Larry Page himself is like jacked into my MAC addresses and watching me on all my computers and what I'm doing. I have nothing to hide, you see. I'm not trying to hack into the banking system. Okay, that's why the NSA was created, for counterterrorism, surveillance of criminal activity, and then, of course, there's other arguments about that. But my point here is that when it comes to banking and security, there's a whole different level of topic. But in terms of your marketing and your private blog networks versus your PBBNs and the rest, the reason that PBNs are going to fail within the next 36 months, my team is saying sooner, and things like that, and the reason that they're looking to fight those things is because they don't draw any human attention. Okay, there's no, they're seeking to wipe out the lack of attentionalism, which increases what Matt calls their IT debt. You see what I'm saying? In other words, when sites are not active and they do not have attention, they do not draw attention, there's no time on site, they do not serve the matrix. and it's very costly for them. So because the algorithms, you know, when we're creating algorithms to beat that, that only deals with the machine world, and then we're telling the robots to bypass the need for human engagement, that costs Google a lot of money. Now, I'm not saying that there are not ways, we're not going to continue to create robots that counteract the robots that Google builds and all these types of things. I'm just saying that why bother when you can just as easily use the same robots to create attention, which is the new hard currency, okay? And that's really what we call attentionalism. So where I'm moving, so you guys know in my philosophy, my epistemology, is that the web is becoming a broadcast network. And when you view yourself, your business, your philosophy, when it's founded on something that's solid, something that's sustainable, which, by the way, is attentionalism. Attentionalism is not going away. Even so far as neuroplasticity of the brain changes over the next 10 years, and your children and your children's children have technologies probably, you know, for some of you I know it's horrible, but probably integrated directly into their body of some kind. Okay, we just don't know. But I'm letting you know that what won't change is attentionalism itself. Interactions might change, the way that what we give attention to will change, but the matrix will become a location and a place where those who are able to create engagement and jack different contexts or aggregate and create new contexts are going to win. And here's the thing, you can automate that. That's what the level 3 certification is all about. I will be showing you things that I can't believe it myself. When I'm looking on my monitor, my giant 75-inch screen here on the right, with my quad splitter, I'm watching traffic come across automated generated sites, flying in the face of everything that every SEO is telling me on the internet. Everything that I'm being told about what I can and can't do is completely undermined by what I'm doing right here. And why does that work?
Isn't that interesting?
It's engagement. It's engagement rank, you guys. It's like, why do these, I mean, pin bids are only the beginning. We're working on Facebook context jacks. What do we mean by context jack? We've got a new theme that we're working on that looks exactly like a Facebook page, except it's on your server. And here's the thing, why does the brain stop and give it engagement? Because Facebook has created what? A previous cultural context, right? So when people see those colors, they see those outlines, all of a sudden it's, oh yeah, Facebook, they already have that impact. It's the same thing like, what is, check this wiki out, right? Why do people spend an inordinate amount of time on our wiki? It's not because Russell Wright is so smart. In fact, some of his entries need serious help with grammar. All right, but what is interesting is that it's a media wiki, and because media wiki was a tech meme that got replicated, it's got a context of Wikipedia. That is an example of context checking. Give me a 1 if that makes sense to you guys. The technology itself is a way to jack context because it's got ubiquity. Ubiquity means it is everywhere. It already has done a lot of the work for me. And so that's really what I want to get you to know. When you combine all those faculties, that's where you have engagement rank. Okay? I just wanted to give you guys that introduction, is that engagement rank will slice through all of the privacy stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't want, I'm not saying that this is not a major issue, okay, that you want to separate as your empire grows, as your servers grow, when you get things to the server level, you want it like any kind of portfolio, you want to diversify. I'm just saying don't get caught up on micro diversification. Stay with the big picture. If you're making $7.95 a year on the internet, blocking your MAC addresses and trying to diversify and crouching down and paranoia is probably not appropriate.
Yeah.
If you're making $1 million a month with attentionalism, on the internet across multiple servers, and rankings are a significant part of those, probably some paranoia is going to be very useful in building those. Does that make sense to everyone? Brian says, that was one of your best ever sidebars and will stand the test of time. Okay, thank you, Brian. I will then snip that out and I will context jack this entire thing and I will put it somewhere else. All right, you guys. Hey, Matt, are you good? Should we wrap it up? If Brian says it's good content, then I will definitely reorganize that.